Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Shalom. I'm David Mנצר, Israeli government spokesman for the National Public Diplomacy Directorate, here in the office of the Prime Minister. It's Thursday, the 23rd of January, day 475 since the start of the October 7th war. A quick update from me, and then we will take your questions. Please put them in the chat together with your news outlet. Firstly, on our fallen soldiers, the number of fallen soldiers in this war has unfortunately risen to 841. Sergeant First Class in the Reserves, Eviatar Ben Yehuda, was aged 31 years old and from Nitzan. He fell when he was hit by an IED, an improvised explosive device, a roadside bomb, in the northern Samaria, the northern Shomron, West Bank area on Monday. He gave his life for the security of our country, and the entire people of Israel embrace his family and his friends in their pain. We pray for the healing of all the injured. May the memory of our heroes be blessed and cherished in our hearts always. Next, on Israel's counter-terror operation in Jenin and the region, which have been named Operation Iron Wall. First, let me provide you with some context. This operation is designed to protect the lives of Israeli civilians. Hundreds of terrorist attacks have emanated from Judea and Samaria at the West Bank since October the 7th, 2023, 2,000 in total. We know that Iran is behind these attacks through their local proxy Hamas. The IDF have produced evidence of Iran seeking to smuggle weapons into Judea and Samaria. And where are they hidden? In mosques, in schools, and in hospitals. Yes, it certainly sounds familiar, straight from the Iran-Hamas in Gaza playbook. But IEDs, improvised explosive devices, are the main threat. Again, straight from the Iranian playbook and faced by coalition forces in Iraq and Afghanistan, where IEDs were responsible for 50 to 70% of Allied casualties. IEDs are the challenge in Judea and Samaria, where they are laid under roads and civilian infrastructure. Israel's policy is clear. Israel will settle accounts with every terrorist who seeks to harm our citizens. As an operational update, last night, as part of the Operation Iron Wall, the IDF eliminated 2 Islamic Jihad terrorists in the village of Burkin. Both of these terrorists took part in the terrorist shooting in Funduk on January the 6th. This was an attack where 3 Israelis were murdered. Terrorists were also apprehended last night and taken into custody for questioning. There will be no safe havens for terrorists in Judea and Samaria. Israel has and will continue to thwart terror attacks in our entire region, focusing on North Samaria from where these murderous attacks have been launched. Israel knows that terror attacks against Israeli citizens are the result of incessant incitement. They are directed by Hamas and Iran. We know that Iran seeks to create more murderous violence against innocent civilians, as they did in Gaza, and ignite this region. They will not succeed. Next, on the agreement to release our hostages. As you know, on Sunday, 3 hostages were returned to Israel after being cruelly held by Hamas for 471 days. In this first phase, for the release of the hostages, 30 more hostages are expected to return to Israel, most of them alive. 94 hostages remain in Gaza. Media should be aware that 4 hostages are expected to be released to Israel on Saturday. Yes, this framework for the release of our hostages comes with a heavy price, but Israel has a moral obligation to do everything it can to return all of our hostages home, the living and the murdered. Now to the ceasefire in the north of Israel and in Lebanon. Israel wants the ceasefire agreement to endure. There have indeed been positive developments where Lebanese army have taken the place of Hezbollah. The agreement, however, makes clear that there should be no military besides the Lebanese army and the UNIFIL force between Israel's northern border and the Litani River. That is not yet the case. There is movement, but it is not moving fast enough. Now I point you to the statement released this afternoon by the IDF, which said our troops located in southern Lebanon weapons, Cornet missiles, grenades and AK-47 rifles. Soldiers located and dismantled several underground routes that were used as shelters and weapon storage facilities by Hezbollah terrorists, and all the weapons located were confiscated or dismantled. Israel is operating in accordance with and to enforce the ceasefire understandings between Israel and Lebanon. So that's the end of our briefing here today. Please put your questions in the chat together with your news outlet and we will take some. Okay, first question here from David Clement at the News Forum. Can you elaborate on why Israel feels it must keep control over the border area between Gaza and Egypt? Thank you for that question, David. The Prime Minister has made crystal clear, and the negotiators know this as well, that the Philadelphia corridor was an area where Hamas smuggled the vast majority of its weapons, its rockets, its missiles, and its deadly armaments. Now, they were smuggled overground, but also underground in large tunnels, some of them large enough to put vehicles through. The Prime Minister has made clear, and Israel has made clear, that control over that border is absolutely key, particularly the Philadelphia corridor, to ensure that we stop this smuggling. Now, there is, this has been discussed in the agreement, it is mentioned in the agreement, and there is a protocol for taking those decisions forward. Next is a question from George Dastis from FA in Spain. Has Israel requested an extension to the withdrawal of forces from Lebanon? If so, how many days will Israel withdraw by next week if the extension is not granted? Thank you for that question, George. In our briefing just today, we discussed the ceasefire agreement with Lebanon. We've made clear that there have been positive movements where the Lebanese army and UNIFIL have taken the place of Hezbollah forces, as stipulated in the agreement. We've also made clear that these movements have not been fast enough, and there is much more work to do. Israel has made clear that they wish for this agreement to endure. Israel will certainly enforce this agreement as well as adhering to this agreement, but the movements have not been fast enough. Next question is from Joel Pollack. President Trump began his, Joel Pollack from Breitbart News. President Trump began his term with a set of with some executive orders, including the reversal of sanctions on Israeli individuals and the redesignation of the Houthis as a terror organization. What's Israel's reaction? Thank you for that question, Joel. We do, of course, welcome President Trump into office. The Prime Minister released a statement saying that his re-election is perhaps the greatest political comeback in history, and I would point you to that statement made by the Prime Minister. We have welcomed the other decisions that he has made, and when it comes to designating the Houthis as a terror organization, our Foreign Ministry just this afternoon, before I came on air, praised this and lauded this decision. The Houthis are, of course, a terrorist organization. Be in no doubt that they are underestimated at their peril. They are an Iranian proxy, and they are not only a threat to Israel, but they are a threat to international trade, which means they're not only Israel's issue, they are an international issue, and we welcome the participation of other countries, some of our partners in this region and further afield, to ensure that the Houthi threat is most definitely stood up to. Next question is about Steve Witkoff, the president's Middle East envoy. and some questions about him. The Prime Minister and the Israeli government have very much welcomed the Trump administration's engagement on getting our hostages back. There is no doubt that President Trump's intervention, together with the work of the Biden administration, were key to getting Hamas to release our people. And for that, we are extremely grateful. We've got nothing more to add on anything else on that issue. We very much welcome the participation and the active engagement of the Trump administration. It has made a real difference. Next question here is from Alexander Cornwell. Has Israel, from Reuters, has Israel requested an extension to ceasefire in Lebanon? How many days extension? Thank you, Alexander. I believe I've dealt with that question already. And the last question I can see here is from Sveta Listratov from TPS news agency. And it's a question about the terrorists which have been released as part of this agreement. Let me make this clear. Yes, of course, this has been a painful agreement. Israel has made that clear. The Prime Minister has made that clear. This hostage release agreement has come to pass because Hezbollah have been degraded, Iran have been degraded, and Hamas as well have been greatly degraded. But there are we are unfortunately having to pay a heavy price for the release of our hostages. The Prime Minister has made clear that hostages with blood on their hands, some of these murderers with terrible murders, convicted murderers, multiple times, multiple people, they will not be allowed to return to Judea and Samaria, and certainly not to Israel. They'll have to find another third-party country to go to. Okay, that's and you ask, can the Prime Minister's office provide assurance that these releases will not empower terror groups? As I said, these have been very, very difficult decisions to make, but the Prime Minister has made clear, both through a more active IDF to protect our citizens and also to ensure that these people, these terrorists with blood on their hands, are not returned, not to Israel, certainly not to Israel, and not to Judea and Samaria. Question here from, let us know if from you don't give your, from Rory Jones from the Wall Street Journal. Question about Israel pushing for Albel Yehud to be released this Saturday. When it comes to this question, Rory, let me share with you. When it comes to the release of our hostages, this has been a hard-fought negotiation. We have tried for many, many months now to get our people home. Only more recently have Hamas been willing to take forward an agreement because they have been so greatly degraded. In the words of Secretary Biden, the cavalry weren't coming, and no one was coming to save them. Not their patrons in Syria or in Iran or Hezbollah or any of the other Iranian militias and proxies. So that's why they have been made this agreement. And when it comes to individual aspects, I think you'll appreciate that this, Rory, this is a delicate situation. We want to get all of our people home, and I would suggest that the parties to this negotiation, including the negotiators, understand full well the requirements within this negotiation, and I won't be discussing these things in public for the good of the success of getting our people home. And finally, a question here from DPA. Perhaps you can let me know what DPA is, Cindy Richaud. I'll read your question in the meantime. Okay, you're asking about the number of confirmed dead by Israel. Is it at least 30? Okay, you're asking for the number of confirmed dead. If I may, Cindy, I'll come back to you with that figure. I would like to... there are 94 hostages remaining. When it comes to the number of confirmed dead, I will share that with you separately due to recent changes and some of the hostages who were recovered, sadly already murdered by Hamas last week. Okay. And finally, the last question. The last question from Jim Williams. Sorry, I can't see your question now. There you are, right. Negotiations for phase 2 of the hostage deal are set to begin on the 16th day of phase 1. Is the Israeli negotiation team set for those talks, assuming Hamas does not violate phase 1 of the agreement? Jim, the answer is yes. Israel very much wants this agreement to continue until all of our people are home. We've made this very, very clear that that's why we entered into this agreement, the purpose of which was to get our people home. Within that, Israel's war aims remain the same. They are, of course, to bring all our people home and to ensure that Hamas are no longer a threat to this country and that they're no longer in control militarily or their governing structure within Gaza, because we believe that a Gaza without Hamas is a better Gaza for Gazan civilians. Okay, Cindy Rishu from the German press agency DPA. Thank you, Cindy. I will provide that answer for you afterwards about the numbers who are officially no longer alive from Israel's perspective. And there was one more question I saw from AFP, Daniel Capuro from AFP. Can you comment on whether Israel has increased the number of checkpoints in the West Bank or increased thoroughness of checks there? From Daniel Capuro. Thank you for that question, Daniel. I gave a full briefing on Israel's action in Jenin. It's designed to protect Israel's civilians. We know that Iran is trying to, having failed miserably in Gaza, is now trying to, and has been trying for a long time, to erupt Hamas and other terrorist forces in Judea and Samaria. We've taken action against these terrorist forces. Our key, the challenge we face right now are IEDs. When we do take action, we have ensured that terrorists cannot escape and that they cannot escape from Jenin and from other places. The IDF has made that absolutely clear. Otherwise, these actions would be completely pointless. And I heard on the BBC this morning that there were talk about roads being churned up. We are, in our effort to destroy these IEDs, we are having to disrupt the roads in these areas, because that's the only way to destroy these IEDs before they kill Israeli civilians, as they have, and our forces, together with ordinary Palestinians living in that area. So, unfortunately, if Hamas and their terrorist allies were not placing IEDs on roads, then there would not be a need to disrupt these roads to ensure that we get rid of these IEDs. And last question now from Nicholas Ruger from Libération. Do evacuation orders given to the population in Jenin have a timeline? Okay, so just be clear about this, because this is actually fake news. There have been no evacuation orders to the people of Jenin. There have been no evacuation orders for the people of Jenin. People that live in Jenin, not connected with terrorism, are free to leave, to get away from our action, but there has been no evacuation orders whatsoever. That is unfortunately fake news, probably being spread by supporters of Hamas. Okay, I think that's the last question now. I think I've answered all of your questions. Thank you for joining us. We'll have another briefing, no doubt, shortly to update you on the latest news. In the meantime, do please stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next briefing. Thank you. Bye-bye.